The onset of artificial intelligence has been very rapid. We hear about it in the news all the time now, for good and bad. This video explores 3 major AI engines to see if they're relevant to genealogical research. Not many years ago, we'd have to physically visit an archive to find sources. Then came online availability of sources. Now we can do research from our own home. Now with artificial intelligence, we have a research assistant that will both find the sources and suggest research approaches. But are all these AI engines the same? I decided to find out. The AI engines most in the news today are Bard from Google, Bing and ChatGPT. So I asked them all the same 3 questions. What is the best way for me to find records of my grandfather's service in the US Marines? He was born in 1921. Next question is, I believe my relatives owned land in Chester County, Pennsylvania in the 1850s. Where can I find the land resources? And a DNA question. My DNA ethnicity shows 10% Basque. What does that mean? I asked all 3 AI engines the same question, and let's look at the results. Here I am at ChatGPT, and the screens I'm seeing here are very nice, very clean output. The questions here on the left hand side, the responses are here in the middle. A unique feature of ChatGPT is it remembers the different responses. So I've got 1 of 2 and 2 of 2, so I can see the different responses that I asked ChatGPT to come up with. And if we remember, we can ask these artificial intelligence engines to keep regenerating responses. Very clean output. It remembers the question, so it was the answers are very definitive around the question. So if you know, I mentioned 1850 here, the answer has got 1850, and it's a very clean answer. One thing to note here is the lack of links and sources in ChatGPT compared to the other 2 artificial engines. There is a source here, a link here to the archives, but for 3 questions and 6 responses, only 1 link. Here we are at Bard from Google, and the output screen is completely different to ChatGPT. But you can see immediately there's links, small links in the answers from Bard. The answer is not as long, but we do have links in them. The other thing we've lost actually is the where different drafts, and I'll show you how Bard presents the drafts. But once I ask the next question, it appears that the different drafts are lost, and it only retains the one I was last looking at. I can output to Docs or Gmail, and I can switch this to a Google inquiry. But you can see on the military one, some nice links. The Chester County land records, a very canned response, to be honest, but some nice background on the Basque region. Now the Google Bard presents the drafts when you're actually asking a question in this way, so I can do view of the drafts, and it presents me with different drafts that I can look at and see how it presents the drafts in different ways. So it doesn't retain the information quite as well as ChatGPT, but it does have, in my opinion, better links and more instructions on how to find more information. Last but not least, here we are at the Bing Artificial Intelligence Engine. I've already preloaded my 3 questions here. Here's the one about my grandfather's service in US Marines. And again, these questions are just made up. Here's the answer. It's not a long answer, but we have 6 different Landmore references, and these are both a reference and a citation, and I can actually click on these and go to that particular website that it's discussing. Here's the one from Chester County. Again, it's not very long, but it does give references. And finally, the one on the Basque. Again, references, fairly short, where's Landmore, and it suggests different questions for each question I've asked. So it's actually blanked out the last 2 for these, but for the last question I've got different questions that Bing's suggesting to me. So smaller answers, more references, and a very good interface with search right here. And obviously search doesn't go away. Search is going to be just as important as AI for now. So we took a quick look at the artificial intelligence engines in action. And there's no point really going into a lot of the results and looking at the actual text, because every time you use an artificial intelligence engine, the draft is going to be somewhat different. But what are the results? So I'm going to do a quick compare of all three systems based on the questions I asked them and based on the two drafts they gave me. So let's look at how they compare with each other. In terms of ease of use, probably a personal choice, but I found Bing easy to use. It's embedded into the search engine. I can move around very easily, and actually without leaving Bing, I can pop into the search. Bard is somewhat more difficult to use. You've got to go to a different site, but ChatGPT again is very clean, and I can move backwards and forwards between the different drafts as well. Not a lot in it, but I just felt Bing was slightly better, closely followed by ChatGPT. And similar way in the layout. Now again, a personal choice. I found the layout on Bing very good. It gave me a lot of pointers of where to go. Bard AI is pretty vanilla when it comes to the layout, and probably it'll get integrated to Google and look a little bit better in the future. And ChatGPT, very clean layout. I know what I'm doing. The questions are on the left hand side, and I can go backwards and forwards between the drafts, as I said before. But again, in terms of ease of use and layout, not a great deal of it in it. It'll be a personal choice here. But the next two questions really are the most important. What was the strength of the answer? And here I found Bing's answers to be very short. It's going to rely more on the sources and links. Bard was a good answer, and it embedded some links and some sources and some detailed direction. And ChatGPT was closely behind, but without any sources. So from an answer point of view, I think Bard is slightly better. And again, in terms of completeness of answer, Bing, very short answers, not fully complete, points to different areas to look at. So it's closer to a Sage than an AI, in my opinion, on Bing in these areas. But Bard and ChatGPT, still very good. Where Bing wins is on the embedded links. There's multiple embedded links within the answer. But again, we're kind of nudging Sage here rather than artificial intelligence, but very useful for the researcher. Bard had some links. They had images with them, which were not necessary in my opinion. And ChatGPT had virtually none in the answers I got. And the same with research, references and sources. Bing was much better, Bard was somewhere in between, and ChatGPT didn't provide any. And you've got to really remember that ChatGPT is really a super text writing engine rather than a research engine. All of these have different strengths. So when we talked about searching, which is still going to be part of your genealogical research, only Bing and Bard had the searches still, and they were very close to the model that we'd see, so very integrated into artificial intelligence. ChatGPT, straight up AI engine, no search capabilities. And finally, multiple drafts. Now again, one thing to remember with artificial intelligence is that these are generated answers, and they'll generate different answers to the same question over and over again. So if you go into these AIs and ask the same questions I have, you'll likely get different results. But in terms of overall systems, what were my findings? I think Bing is much better for links, sources, and integration. So as a researcher, it will point me to very appropriate URLs that I can use to further my research. Bard was very good at draft answers. It had good links and overall usage. And ChatGPT well ahead on supertext. Its grammatical answers were far better than Bing and Bard's. The layout was good and ease of use. So the question for the researcher is, which one would I use as part of my research on genealogical question? Well, first of all, I think the answer is they're all simple, they're all free. I used them all. And within my research question, I need to add this as part of my research plan. Now, it's going to be awfully difficult to do citations on these engines because the draft results are different. So somebody going in behind me answering the same questions I answered will have different answers themselves. But you need to cite these in your references, and you need to have these as part of your research plan. And I would suggest all three. All three will be a game changer. Also, don't forget about the search functions in both Bing and Google. They're still useful. They'll point you to the right URLs. And remember, we're not going to be using the answers from artificial intelligence in our results. We're using these artificial intelligence engines as a research assistant to point us to the sources that we can go investigate ourselves. So I'm not suggesting we use any of these artificial intelligence engines to answer our research question. What we're using these engines for is to help us come up with a research plan so we can answer the questions ourselves. So I hope you found this video useful. If you do, please click on the like button and subscribe. I will put a new video out very, very shortly.